Testing for YouTube. Testing 1, 2, 3.
Okay, welcome everyone. We'll call to order our regular meeting of council and start by acknowledging that we work, live, and play on the city of Port Alberni, which is situated on the unceded traditional territories of the Sachot and Hupachasit First Nations. We do have an agenda in front of us. Are there any late items to add to the agenda from council? Seeing none, any late items from the corporate officer? Seeing none, would somebody like to move approval of our agenda? Moved by Councillor Solda, seconded by Councillor Patola. Any comments? Seeing none on the motion, all in favor? Carried, none opposed. Move on to adoption of minutes. We have minutes from the special meeting held at 12:30 a.m. p.m. Just read it, but I think I can reason that that is meant to say 12:30 p.m. From the special meeting held at 12:30 p.m. and the regular meeting of council held at 2 p.m. on June 24th, 2024 to be adopted. Move to adopt by Councillor Mealy, seconded by Councillor Dame. Thank you. Any comments on the minutes? Seeing none on the motion, all in favor? Carried, none opposed. We have no delegations and no unfinished business today, so on to staff reports. Item number 1 is accounts. Councillor Solda.
Madam Mayor, I move that the certification of the Director of Finance dated July 8, 2024 be received and checks numbered 155160 to 155228 inclusive in payment of accounts totaling $656,058.17 be approved.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Solda. Seconded by Councillor Dame. Seeing no comments on the motion, all in favor? Carried, none opposed. On to bylaws. Item number 1, we have utility bylaw amendments for 2024. I'll go to our Director of Finance.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So annually, we do bring forward the bylaw to be updated for our water, sewer, and this year we're including the solid waste collection bylaw. We currently are undergoing the master planning process. We're updating the capital projects that are within water and sewer specifically to make sure that we update the water worth planning document to support the annual increases. This year, we planned with the 5% for both water and sewer increasing in the financial plan, and in the solid waste, it's 5.5% increase for the single-family average household with that bin that's 120 liters. So with that, the bylaw is updated and reflects the changes that were proposed in the financial plan.
Wonderful. Are there any questions from council? Councillor Patola.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I seem to recall last year about this time, because it's an annual process, that we were having discussions about water fees and cost recovery and making sure that we weren't giving away water, that we were spending more to produce and clarify and make safe than we were getting paid for it. I'm wondering whether or not the water rates have been brought into alignment with a cost recovery.
Andrew.
Madam Mayor, so the water rates reflect that service that we provide, also the contribution for those future asset renewals that we have to do. So we are updating that master plan with our listing that we have for our annual projects. With that, that would start to populate what we would need to do the modeling. Now, we've had the recent hire of the asset management role, and that role is now being tasked with going into this program and repopulating it with the new information that we're getting forward, and also going a little bit deeper. But as far as cost recovery, once we have that future analysis and work identified, that's when we'd have that detail. We are getting full cost recovery for our operating. We're also contributing, if you look in the financial plan, into the reserves. And the water is definitely a higher reserve contribution because of the limited debt that it has. But when we look at sewer, there's a higher debt servicing that we have to undertake, so that is eating up more of that contribution that we could have been putting into the reserve for those future projects. So as far as cost recovery and what we need to do, and then setting minimum reserve balances as we move forward, that's work that we need to undertake. And I think keep in mind that all the revenue that we receive for water and sewer stays within that reserve. So as we get that information in the future, we'll have that for council to make the decisions on.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Councillor Mealy, would you like to read these?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I move that the Waterworks bylaw number 5107-2024 be now introduced and read a first time.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Mealy, seconded by Councillor Dane. Seeing no comments on the motion, all in favor? Carried, none opposed.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I move that the Waterworks bylaw number 5107-2024 be read a second time.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Mealy, seconded by Councillor Dane. Seeing no comments on the motion, all in favor? Carried, none opposed. Go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I move that the Waterworks bylaw number 5107-2024 be read a third time.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Mealy, seconded by Councillor Dane. Seeing no comments on the motion, all in favor? Carried, none opposed. Go ahead, Councillor Mealy.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And now move that sewer connection and regulation bylaw number 5108-2024 be introduced and read a first time.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Mealy, seconded by Councillor Dane. Seeing no questions or comments on this piece, on the motion, all in favor? Carried, none opposed.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Move that sewer connection and regulation bylaw number 5108-2024 be read a second time.
Moved by Councillor Mealy, seconded by Councillor Dane. Seeing no comments on the motion, all in favor? Carried, none opposed. Go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Move that sewer connection and regulation bylaw number 5108-2024 be read a third time.
Moved by Councillor Mealy, seconded by Councillor Dane. Seeing no comments on the motion, all in favor? Carried, none opposed.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Move that solid waste collection and disposal bylaw number 5109-2024 be now introduced and read a first time.
Moved by Councillor Mealy, seconded by Councillor Dane. Any questions on this piece? Seeing none on the motion, all in favor? Carried, none opposed. Go ahead, Councillor Mealy.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Move that solid waste collection and disposal bylaw number 5109-2024 be read a second time.
Moved by Councillor Mealy, seconded by Councillor Dane. Seeing no comments on the motion, all in favor? Carried, none opposed. Last one.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Move that solid waste collection and disposal bylaw number 5109-2024 be read a third time.
Moved by Councillor Mealy. Councillor Dane agrees to second. Seeing no comments on the motion, all in favor? Carried, none opposed. Thank you very much, and thank you to Andrew for this. Moving on to correspondence for action. Item number 1, we have a letter dated June 20th, 2024 from the HMCS Alberni Museum and Memorial requesting city flags fly at half-mast on August 21st, 2024 to commemorate the 80th anniversary of the sinking of the HMCS Alberni. Would somebody like to make that motion? Councillor Solda.
Madam Mayor, I move that council authorize city flags fly at half-mast on August 21st, 2024 to commemorate the 80th anniversary of the sinking of the HMCS Alberni on behalf of the HMCS Alberni Museum and Memorial.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Solda, seconded by Councillor Patola. Any questions or comments? Seeing none on the motion, all in favor? Carried, none opposed. And item number 2, a letter dated June 26, 2024 from the Alberni District Fall Fair Association requesting access to city streets for the Fall Fair Parade. Councillor Dane.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd be happy to move that council authorize the Alberni District Fall Fair Association access to city streets on Saturday, September 7th, 2024 from 11 o'clock a.m. to approximately 12 o'clock p.m. for the purpose of a parade from 9th Avenue along Butte Street and along 10th Avenue to Alderwood Street, subject to the notification of emergency services and BC Transit, consultation with all affected businesses and residents, city-approved traffic safety plan including qualified traffic control personnel as required, and provision of standard liability insurance in the amount of $5 million.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Dane, seconded by Councillor Solda. Any comments? Councillor Haggard.
I was wondering if staff could ask the Industrial Heritage Society if they're participating, and if they are, if council would be able to ride in some of their equipment in the parade. It's always a lot of fun to participate.
Absolutely. Okay. Seeing no other comments on the motion, all in favor? Carried, none opposed. Item number 3, we have a letter dated June 21st, 2024 from the Union of British Columbia Municipalities providing the 2024 to 2034 Community Works Fund Agreement. Councillor Haggard, would you like to read this one?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to move that the mayor and the corporate officer be authorized to execute the 2024 to 2034 Community Works Fund Agreement.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Haggard, seconded by Councillor Dame. Councillor, are there any questions or comments on this? Seeing none, on the motion, all in favor? Carried. Any opposed? None opposed. And item number 4, we have the Alberni Valley Makerspace, an email dated June 27th, 2024 from the Makerspace requesting council provide a letter of support for their grant application. Councillor Solda, would you like to read this one?
Madam Mayor, I move that the council direct staff to prepare a letter of support for the Alberni Valley Makerspace to accompany the application to the Clean BC Plastics Action Fund. And it would be great if, I know he's in the audience, if he could just, Makerspace could just say what they're doing in that.
I think that's a fantastic idea. Is there a seconder for the motion? Seconded by Councillor Dame. Michael, did you want to come forward and just give us a minute of overview on the Makerspace? Because I think that there is still just a real lack of understanding in the community of the really cool asset that we have existing. Pass some stuff around. Thanks, Michael. And just turn on the microphone there.
Hi, Michael Moore, Alberni Valley Makerspace. I think we're 3632 3rd Avenue. So the letter of support, or the ask for a letter of support, is for plastics recycling. The Alberni Valley Makerspace has purchased all the equipment, built the studio space, and has already started the process. The plastic that's being handed out to you right now consists of resin type 2 or HDPE. This is a rigid plastic material that isn't separated in our current recycling system. That plastic can be reprocessed and broken down and produced into new products. In addition to that, there's also PETG and PLA, which are byproducts from 3D printing. Those plastics there, we would be one of the only places on the island that would actually be able to reprocess that material. So right now, the Clean BC has a plastics recycling grant that is open. And through that plastics recycling grant, our end goal is to start to be able to produce flat stock material, material that would be suitable for making park benches, and then working with Parks Canada and producing flat stock that would essentially create the frames for outhouses and for different materials for them as well.
That is wonderful. Thank you, Michael.
Thank you.
I think for all the work you guys are doing there, it is such a fun place in the community that I think, again, a lot of people just don't know about yet. So for anyone out there who hasn't had the opportunity yet to check out the Makerspace, please do. Now that I took my kids there, like all I get asked every day is, can we go to the Makerspace? So
Yeah.
glad we have a membership.
Yes, yes. Yeah, the plastics I handed out here, the soap dishes, for a prime example, that represents approximately 1.5 milk jugs worth of plastic waste. A 2x4 made of the same material represents 72 milk jugs. So volume-wise, our goal right now, we've already processed about 250 to 300 kilograms of plastic. And it is not outside the scope to say that we'll be able to do multiple tons within our first year, which will then have a fairly significant impact on the amount of plastic waste that leaves the valley. So,
Awesome. That is so great. Thank you.
thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, seeing none, and then we've got the motion to support the request. On the motion, all in favor? Carried, none opposed. Thanks again, Michael. And item number 5, we have an email dated June 21st, 2024 from the Municipal Insurance Association of BC requesting council name a voting delegate to attend their 37th annual general meeting on September 17th, 2024. And a motion suggesting that we continue to have Councillor Solda appointed with Councillor Haggard as the alternate. Councillor Mealy.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I move that council confirm Councillor Solda as voting delegate and Councillor Haggard as alternate for the Municipal Insurance Association of British Columbia AGM Tuesday, September 17th, 2024 in conjunction with the UBCM convention.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Mealy, seconded by Councillor Dame. Seeing no comments on the motion, all in favor? Carried, none opposed. We have no proclamations today, so we'll move on to correspondence for information, and I'll go to our corporate officer.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. First off, we have from the UBCM the confirmation of receipt of the resolution for addressing the needs of rural seniors in British Columbia. Then we have Ministry of Emergency Management and Climate Readiness, Disaster Resilience and Innovation Funding, just an announcement of funding available from the province on that. Then there's correspondence from the Ministry of Environment and Climate Change Strategy regarding the single-use and plastic waste prevention regulation, just highlighting that this is a new regulation and providing opportunities for administrative education on those items. Lastly, there is the there's two more. BC Emergency Health Services Deployment of Fire Resources, just a response received from BCEHS regarding some discussions that they've had with the City of Port Alberni. And lastly is the COM 911 2023 annual report.
Thank you very much. Are there any items councillors would like to speak to? Councillor Patola.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm wondering, Madam Mayor, if any of the administrative staff could comment on whether or not Port Alberni currently has a bylaw addressing the use of single-use and plastic waste in the city of Port Alberni.
We don't. There was a motion 6 or 7 years ago to work toward creating one. There were some challenges with that, and it never ended up rising to the top. And so we have not implemented one since then. I'm wondering if our CAO could just speak a little bit more to the deployment of fire resources. And I believe we have a report coming forward that speaks to some of this. So just wanted to get a bit of an update on that.
Sure. Thank you for the question. After our last year's UBCM meeting, we engaged with BC Emergency Health Services on what type of calls our fire department was going to in Port Alberni and the level of service that they felt is required to make sure that our call volume was representative of our bylaw, our current bylaw, and what BC Health Services thought that we should be responding to. So the fire chief and deputy fire chief in the department worked with BC Health Services and monitored the calls and made sure that we are providing the level of service to the residents as per our bylaw and as what is needed. And this letter just confirms what they believe we should have in our bylaw and help. However, it still means that it makes up a majority of our calls. Over 70% is the usual percentage right now of calls that we do respond to that are non-fire related and more in help to BC Health Services. So the fire chief is preparing a report to bring to council to talk about service levels and some options for our council moving forward as we are starting to burn out employees and having problems calling in employees for overtime, dealing with forest fires or house or structural fires if we need additional resources, as they already are putting in a lot of overtime and backing up to fill the positions to make sure we're ready to do our primary service, which is the fire protection.
Thank you very much for that, and look forward to the report. And Councillor Patola, just for additional information that just popped into my mind, I think it was 8 or 9 years ago that a motion was made, and it was specifically at the request of a community group for the city to look at banning plastic bags at grocery stores. So that motion was passed, and it never ended up being actioned. It just didn't end up being a council priority at the time. This would be 2 councils ago. But since then, of course, plastic bags have been eliminated from grocery stores predominantly. So I don't think any other specific action has been taken. I know that when Gord Johns was kind of circulating for his motion on banning single-use plastics, the city did not take action at that time, and that was after that last motion. So might be something for us to circle back on. So thanks for asking the question. Any other comments on the correspondence? Okay, Seeing none, no report from in camera, we'll go to council reports. Are there any items councillors would like to speak to or highlight from their activities? Councillor Solda.
Madam Mayor, I just want to, on a personal note, mention that Portal Players went to the Provincial Drama Festival and they took home 7. They took all the awards basically from the provincials. And I just want to say congratulations, well done. And theater is still alive in Port Alberni. So just
Yeah, thank you very much for sharing that, and big congratulations to everyone at Portal Players. That's really exciting, and such a great group there. We're really fortunate to have that operation in our community. Councillor Haggard.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just want to say thank you to the Alberni Valley Charity Golf Fundraising Co-op that held their annual event this past weekend. They raised money to contribute to local charities, and this year it was the Alberni Valley Search and Rescue Squad, the Alberni Outreach, and the Hospice Society. And this is their 29th year, and with Sunday's total or Saturday's total, they probably have now reached over $1 million, which is fantastic. And just a shout out to Councillor Meady and Councillor Solder for doing such a great job on the live auction. So it takes a lot of time and effort for a lot of community members and volunteers to make this work. So thank you to everybody who contributed.
Absolutely, thank you. Okay, would somebody like to move receipt of the reports? Moved from Councillor Mealy, seconded by Councillor Dame. On the motion, all in favor? Carried, none opposed. And new business, item number 1, graffiti removal. Councillor Solta.
Madam Mayor, I would like to make a motion that council direct staff to review mechanisms to address graffiti in the downtown area. And I'll get the second.
Is there
and
a seconded by Councillor Mealy? Go ahead, Councillor Solta.
And I know we do have some remedial methods, like you will help with the paint and that. And I actually driving by one of the buildings, I noticed it was, some of the graffiti was taken down as I was coming up to City Hall, which is great. But I think we can do more, we should do more, just to clean up our uptown and other areas in our community that have graffiti and have been there. The graffiti's been up for a long time. It just it's great for the tourism. It's to have all this done. So we'll see what the staff comes up with and we'll go from there.
Thank you. Any other comments? Okay, I just want to note that on this, I think that when we have put staff resources into it, we've made a really significant difference in the graffiti challenges. So thanks for bringing this forward, and the system that we've used in the past might work if we refocus on it. But I think that your motion is great in just having staff review what the best options are and refocus on possibly a new program if the one that we were using might not be the best approach. On the motion, all in favor? Carried, none opposed. Okay, and moving on to item number 2, early approval for replacement of the multiplex dehumidifier.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. I humbly sit for you today to recommend that Council for the City of Port Alberni amend the 2024-2028 financial plan, capital plan, to include the addition and installation of a dehumidifier with heat recovery chiller system for the multiplex, up to a net cost of $560,000, with funds coming from the Canada Community Building Fund and Community Works Fund. I will touch on a few points and then I'll be happy to turn it over for questions. So our existing dehumidifier is nearing 24 years old. It's been inspected a number of times by multiple refrigeration mechanics and the consultant on this project, and it's deemed end of life. It's got some irreparable damage, such as a cracked burner, and it's not performing to standards that we would like to see by maintaining the climate at the multiplex. A brief overview, the dehumidifier is a critical piece of equipment at our multiplex with its primary job to control moisture in the air. A failed or inefficient dehumidifier can lead to ice quality issues such as soft ice, uneven playing surface, which can possibly contribute to player safety or patron safety as well. Increased moisture in the air can impede visibility for spectators in the stands. And lastly, increased moisture can contribute to infrastructure damage, so our metal and electrical components will be more susceptible to corrosion and our wooden structures to rot, and there could be the prevalence of mildew and mold. Benefits of a new system would be better conditions for our users and spectators, enhanced energy efficiency, overall operational cost savings per year, a reduction in greenhouse gas emissions, and versatile heat recovery capabilities, which could go towards either heating with wasted energy, domestic hot water at the multiplex, which includes showers, sinks, the hot water we use to fill the Zamboni, but there is also a significant level of leftover heat that could be reused to potentially heat another facility if there was one built nearby, so that's a big benefit. So with that, staff recommend that council approve the addition and early approval of the replacement of dehumidifier to allow staff to move to the tender phase to ensure an installation date of June 2025. That's how much lead time is required, and we only have a very narrow window of about 4 weeks in June of every year when the plant shut down, specifically if our Bulldogs keep winning. It makes the ice have to stay in later. So with that, I am happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much. Questions from council? Councillor Haggard.
I'll just make a comment. I still hear people say our new multiplex, in reality, we're about halfway through its total lifespan. So things are starting to break and need replacement. So I'd like to make the motion if I may. I'd like to move that council for the city of Port Alberni amend the 2024 to 2028 financial plan, capital plan to include the addition and installation of a dehumidifier with heat recovery chiller system for the multiplex up to a net cost of $560,000 with funds coming from Canada Community Building Fund and Community Works Fund.
Thank you. Is there a seconder? Second. Seconded by Councillor Solda. Comments, questions? Well, I just have to say, I am in full support of giving this early approval and moving forward on it, but I do note that it wasn't included in our 2025 budget. So I don't know if it was future years out or if it was just not in the capital plan. And I think that this is a $500,000 piece of equipment that highly speaks to the need for us to do proper asset management and capital planning. Nothing like this should ever come to us for early approval when it's not even in the budget for next year. We're going to have a very challenging budget year with where we were sitting at the end of last year and now adding in a $560,000 piece of equipment. I would never suggest not doing this. It's critically important for us to properly maintain the building and everything else and offer that service that is highly valued by our community members. But we need to make sure that things like this don't come up out of the blue and that council is fully aware and engaged on big pieces of equipment coming forward. And I think that, council is aware of this, but, giving approval to something like this means not giving approval to other things. So we're not going to have a 20% budget increase next year. So this is $560,000 of money that we have to likely find in our budget now from an already challenging starting point. So I just think it's important to note and acknowledge that because we're about to pass it, which is great. I think it's easy to hear, the importance of it and the need to replace it and have it out of the context of budget. But this is a budget item that was not directly in our budget. And so I don't think we can pass this motion without that being recognized and acknowledged. And I'll just as well one more time say that when we get to that point in budget, it's always easy to look at the capital list and start taking out projects. But ultimately, if we want to be able to afford these services long term, we probably need to look at our service levels, we need to look at our operations, and we need to start making decisions about where we want to prioritize the money that we have. So when we come back to our service level reviews and discussions that we started a few weeks ago at a committee of the whole, I hope council can have a really engaged discussion and not just receive a report and move on from it. I think we need to wholeheartedly look at the level of service that we are providing across all of our departments and decide if that is the level of service that we can afford and if that is the level of service that we want. And I'm not going to point out any specific areas today, but I think that it's so important when we have those service level discussions that we give actual and real consideration to the breakdown of where all of the money goes, because there's going to be way more items like this come up as our facilities continue to age. Councillor Dame.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yeah, I totally agree. This did take me off guard somewhat, and it seems like something that we just have to do in order to continue to have this critical service in our community. It is worth noting that this is just another piece of the frustration that when we look at the arena was built as a regional initiative, and it continues to be the taxpayers of Port Alberni that bear the cost for the ongoing maintenance of the building, and that's tough because it is enjoyed regionally. So that does have to weigh into our future considerations across the board, really. But yeah, I agree.
Thank you. Any other comments? Okay, seeing none, motion is moved and seconded. On the motion, all in favor? Carried, none opposed. I think it was moved and seconded. Yeah, it was moved and seconded. Thank you. I just had to question myself. Thank you very much for that report. And we will move on to question period. This is an opportunity for members of the public to ask questions of council on decisions or recommendations made during the course of this meeting. A maximum of 3 questions per speaker will be permitted. And for anyone participating electronically, please use the raise your hand feature and we will call on you. Are there any members of the public who would like to ask questions today? Seeing none, would somebody like to make a motion to adjourn? Moved by Councillor Mealy, seconded by Councillor Dame. On the motion, all in favor? Carried, none opposed, meeting adjourned. Thank you, everyone.